Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma. Karma Chameleon. Sorry. That's issue 2. Ram V writing with ANAND. Radakashimnan. I probably butchered that. I
They just
apologize.
ANAND RK. It's
ANAND
what it's
RK.
credited as and
Cool.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll roll with that. Which he probably started doing because he knew a bunch of people would try his name and butcher
Probably, but he's been using that as a credit for a while, like years at this point. It's not like a new thing.
Like his art's very good, so there's no ill will
It's fantastic.
as meant here. Yeah, so this was a very interesting issue 1. The whole prisoner camp, this weird evil general who was eating prisoners.
I loved it. Yeah,
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, very weird, but I was into it.
Yeah, and also, and I you know what's funny is I started this issue, right, and I was like, okay, we're continuing on from that stuff, and we find out that general, because he'd eaten from Resurrection Man, is now oddly immortal, but he's like obviously really weird looking, and he's like a skeleton, and he's like, he's completely changed into like a Hellraiser style looking like creature, like
a big like a Mr. Freeze head on.
Yeah. He gets like a dome over his head. And I was like, okay, this is all interesting. And it continues that stuff on, and like what came next, with Resurrection Man interacting with these other troops and how he kind of left them behind, and they ended up dying. And they also see him like survive something, or I say survive, be killed and resurrect, when he protects them from something. And they all think he's weird, but there's this one man who's really understanding and says, "No, you're still human. You're different to us, but you're still human." And that we go down that path. I'd completely forgotten until it happened halfway through the issue, where I'm like, oh yeah, all this stuff where he's talking to like like this dude,
the other version of him,
yeah, outside of time with all the gears and stuff. I'm like, this book's so wild that I'd forgotten that was how this all started. That's why he's like recounting these memories.
And then it's like, and then obviously it takes a path where it's like, well, go back to that memory, and what if you did something different, and you just watched the events unfold in a different way.
Yeah, it kind of proposes that he's been alive so long that you can view your time as a singularity where it's all happening at once. So technically, and it kind of leaves it open, I think, to whether you interpret it as he changed it and did the other thing, or he was just incorrect the first time when he said he never went back. Did he actually just always go back?
No. So my take is, so obviously the thing is he died from old age, which is why he has this new power of time, right?
Yes.
And so I think what he is witnessing is an alternate timeline. I think he goes back and changes it, and I think that's why we have different versions of him. Because this the masked figure is a different version of him, right? So every time he changes it and looks back and changes something, it creates a new timeline, and you end up with a different version of Resurrection Man that goes along and eventually reaches this point.
I can see it. The other part of this issue, of course, is him meeting who would be his wife that he grows old with. That's the other story we get here, where he meets her, and he was working. He got like weird powers because he fought Kilgore in was it 2032 or something? He said he fought Kilgore, and he ended up with powers that let him like manipulate small mechanical things. So he became a puppeteer, which was kind of like, I mean, it's already dated, but especially dated in the future. So he would just do that in the park with his friend, and he ended up meeting this woman because her daughter was into it, and he tried to give the puppet away, and she insisted on buying him a drink. So it kind of sets up how he met her. So I thought that was good. I like that we're getting into this, like how he kind of settled down into normal, because this whole idea that he was very distant from people because he kept watching them grow old and die, it does make it kind of a big deal that he met someone that he was willing to do that with, that he didn't care, like, no, I have to like spend what life I have with her and like finish this life out in a normal way. I think there's something kind of sweet about that. So I really dug that part of it.
Yeah, I think this is a lot, despite the shenanigans, this is a much more straightforward issue than the first one.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, in some ways, for sure. Because there's lots of parts to it, but it's not.
There is, but I think it's split up very neatly as to it's this bit, and then this bit, and then this bit. And I think that's the first issue felt a lot more fractured, but in a way that made sense thematically for what it was doing.
Yeah.
So I think this is pretty not quite as exciting, but
Yeah, because one of the things obviously is that the soldier who was friends with him that he ended up leaving behind when he snuck off that next morning, and he heard gunshots, but he didn't turn back. At least initially. Obviously, he then changes it when he's told to sort of revisit it and do something else. And he has like, the dying words with him and all that. He went on in that timeline to go visit the farm that this guy lived at, and like tell his wife and daughter that he was gone, and they kind of like point this out. And then we jump forward in time to the next part of the timeline, the next sort of like era we're going to focus on, which is the 80s, 1982 specifically. And it talks about how he got involved with the Atom was fighting some villain here. But he talks about how he ended up getting the power that involved being able to, like, because it was like a nuclear based thing. He was able to like just turn into like a mass of energy, like a complex mass outside of the inertial frame of reference, is the way he puts it. Which is kind of wild, and it's kind of this crazy idea. But it gets to this point where he goes with Ray Palmer to this like lab where they're testing this new thing, which is called the key to the fractal Keyverse, like so some sort of cosmic cube thing that's been designed in a lab. But the scientist who's working on it, this woman bears a resemblance to the soldier that he knew. His name was Singh Bar or Singh Brar, and it's like, oh, so this is like maybe the, I don't know, would it be the daughter or the granddaughter? Probably the daughter. Because if she was a kid in 1945. Oh, it says grandfather. It actually says grandfather. Never mind. It's the grandfather.
Yeah, I was say that'd be too young, surely.
Yeah, grandfather. Yeah. Anyway, the point being is that we're kind of seeing that there's like a knock-on effect. Not that necessarily this Rhea Binney character, who this woman is, the granddaughter, not to say that she wouldn't have went down this path in the original timeline, but I do wonder if we're playing with the idea that she didn't do this in timeline A, that was unchanged.
I think so. Yeah, I think this is all somehow assuming we believe that the man in the red cape is another version of Resurrection Man. Assuming we take that at face value, it seems like you're trying to manipulate him into changing this timeline for a reason, and like maybe like the creation of this feels like that could be something to do with it. Fractal universes. That's the idea of like every choice splitting off into a different universe, right? And that feels very like, okay, that's what we're doing in the out of time stuff.
Yeah. So. But I do wonder, are we going to get multiple, like more Resurrection Mans, or is it just these two? Because if it's just these two, then that leads to some questions as well.
I agree. It depends. Like, it could definitely go either way at this point in the series. Like, you could introduce more, and it'll be like, okay, that's fine, or it's just these two, and you start questioning things, right?
Yeah. Either way, though, like I'm like into this idea of like, we kind of between the last issue and the first half of this one really like focused in on this 1945 prison camp, and now we're like honing in on this 80s period, which I'm assuming is going to go over into issue 3, and like kind of like going through these like key elements in the timeline that are going to like build up to why this second Resurrection Man exists and what's going on here. And then of course the other big part of this is that in this 1982 period, the villain, the general from the camp who kind of developed like immortality from eating the Resurrection Man flesh, he's still kind of alive, but he's just a skull in like in a jar, who has been worshipped by a cult who are all eating superpowered people. Like they mentioned the superpowered character that's been kidnapped, and they're cutting him up and eating him with their god in a dome. Like,
yeah, this is creepy as shit, and I love it.
Yeah, it's good stuff. The name is Gashada Kuro.
And I'm assuming that does mean something that we just don't know. Like,
yeah, presumably, yeah. Yeah, I'm curious, but I love the idea that we're also going to be checking in on how this guy kept existing. Because it wouldn't shock me if this ends up being the second quote-unquote Resurrection Man somehow. Like, it's not really him.
Yeah, that's I can like. I definitely am in that feeling that maybe it's not really him, but I don't know how this skull becomes that.
I mean, he consumes the right flesh, I guess. Then again,
maybe that's all it takes.
He doesn't have a digestive system anymore, so I don't know how that works. But I mean, that's a whole other question.
Superpowers. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. No, I do kind of like how ethereal and dark the story is. Although there is these moments of hope because of like these, this relationship that he had, or this idea of like, helping inspire the granddaughter of this other. I mean, not that he directly inspires, but the idea that the sequence of events, because he did go and check on this guy's family, led to him knowing who this was, so that he'd recognize her in the 1980s, and maybe something will come of that because he does recognize her. Like this idea of like it feels like not an odyssey, but there's maybe a word I'm looking for, of like how just this like time span and the way it's moving through it feels very ethereal.
Yeah, it's like an epic.
Yeah, but like an epic with like just a pinch of David Lynch just kind of thrown in to make it feel kind of surreal and weird.
Yeah, it definitely is a little bit surreal and weird.
But credit to Ram V. He always writes something interesting. I'm never left at the end of one of his books or going, like this was generic. It's always, there's always something kind of wild.
It might not always hit for you. That's fair, but there's always something going on, and he does such great artistic partner as well. ANAND is just so good.
I think it's perfect for this book and the tone that it's going for. Kind of sometimes where you get those sort of like faces without much detail on them, but it's just kind of like a vague blur. It kind of works with the tone that it has. It just kind of fits. So very curious. It leaves me thinking in a way that I really enjoy, and I was a little bit worried as I was starting to like, do I remember what issue 1 was? But it all most of it came flooding back. Anytime anything relevant came up, I was like, this and this.
It came back pretty quickly, which is good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Should probably just mention as well, you had the little flashback page at the recap page at the start.
Oh yes.
Of like who Resurrection Man is, which is by Jackson Guice, the artist who created Resurrection Man, and he just died last week.
Oh yeah.
And Ram V was tweeting saying like he knew about his health issues when he was working on this, and like when he reached out to him to see if he was interested, like these health issues, it wasn't like a surprise death. Like there were ongoing issues, and he knew about this, but still was like, no, I want to do something for this book anyway.
That's nice. I assume Ram V probably told them like, okay, here's where it's going. Like you get to know all the like what the intention of the book is, and like.
I assume so, and I'm hoping that they have pages for all the issues for him, because I know he's got a page still credited on the next issue. So I'm assuming that one at the very least was finished. Whether or not there was enough for the whole series, I don't know, but it's nice that they're there. Yeah,
I mean, even if there isn't, like, it doesn't really matter. It is nice that there's this kind of connection to the original. Because I assume Resurrection Man debuted during the 90s just based on the Justice League that's on this page.
Well, I would say so. I mean, created by Abnett and Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, and then
there you go, yeah.
Jackson Guice as the artist with them. So like that lines up, yeah.
Yeah, because you got Blue Superman, you got Kyle and his glorious crab mask.
Yeah. On my planet.
Crab mask for life. All right, what are you rating Resurrection Man?
I'm probably going to give it a straight 8. I don't think it was quite as strong as the first issue, but still very good.
No, I think I got 8.5, which may be a little less than I gave the first issue still, but I there's something kind of special about it that's very captivating. I find it hard to go any lower than that.